Yes.
Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. I'm Father Will Fisher. I'm the rector here at Christ Episcopal Church in Reading, Connecticut, but I'm also a family friend of Elizabeth's. Thank you so much for spending your time this evening to come and help celebrate and remember the life of Elizabeth Blum. We're very glad you could be here. Please take advantage of the chat function to share anything during the service. At the end of the formal part of the service, we will leave the floor open for people to share their remembrances verbally. If you all could please bow your heads in prayer, take a moment of silence to connect with the divine as you conceive of the divine in your own faith tradition. As for me, I know that my Redeemer lives, and that at last he will stand upon the earth. After my awaking, he will raise me up, and in my body I shall see God. I myself shall see, and my eyes behold him, who is a friend and not a stranger. O God of grace and glory, we remember before you this day our sister Elizabeth. We thank you for giving her to us, her family and friends, to know and love as a companion on our earthly pilgrimage. In your boundless compassion, console us who mourn. Give us faith to see in death the gate to eternal life, so that in quiet confidence we may continue our course on earth until by your call we are reunited with those who have gone before. In God's name, amen. I would like to introduce at this point Ms. Jackie Wheatley to read We Remember Them by Sylvan Cremens and by Jack Reamer.
At the rising sun and its going down, we remember them. At the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we remember them. At the opening of the buds and in the rebirth of spring, we remember them. At the blueness of the skies and in the warmth of summer, we remember them. At the blueness of the skies and in the warmth of summer, we remember. At the rustling of the leaves and in the beauty of the autumn, we remember them. At the beginning of the year and when it ends, we remember them. As long as we live, they too will live.
When we are weary and in need of strength, we remember them. When we are lost and sick at heart, we remember them. When we have decisions that are difficult to make, we remember them. When we have joy we crave to share, we remember them. When we have achievements that are based on theirs, we remember them. For as long as we live, they too will live, for they are now a part of us as we remember them.
Our second reading this evening is an excerpt from Shakespeare's The Tempest, read by Ms. Betsy Haggerty.
Our revels now are ended. These our actors, as I foretold you, were all spirits, and are melted into air, into thin air. And like the baseless fabric of this vision, the cloud-capped towers, the gorgeous palaces, the solemn temples, the great globe itself, yea, all which it inherit, shall dissolve. And like this insubstantial pageant faded, leave not a rack behind, We are such stuff as dreams are made on, and our little life is rounded with a sleep.
Our third and final reading this evening comes to us from poet Ruth Whitman, entitled If My Boundary Stops Here, read by her daughter Amy Blum Houston.
If my boundary stops here, I have daughters to draw new maps on the world. They will draw the lines on my face. They will draw my gestures, my voice. They will speak my words, thinking they have invented them. They will invent them. They will invent me. I'll be planted again and again. I will wake in the eyes of their children's children. They will speak my words.
At this point in our memorial service, please observe a brief slideshow and enjoy the music. And this slideshow is created by, the music is from Ralph Vaughan Williams' The Lark Ascending.
Hi, Nancy.
While we're waiting for the slideshow, allow me to share a passage from the prophet Isaiah. Comfort, O comfort my people, says our God. Speak tenderly to Jerusalem and cry to her that she has served her term, that her penalty is paid, that she has received from the Lord's hand double for all her sins. A voice cries in the wilderness, prepare a way of the Lord. Make straight in the desert a highway for our God. Every valley shall be lifted up, and every mountain and hill be made low. The uneven ground shall become level, and the rough places a plain. Then the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all people shall see it together, for the mouth of the Lord has spoken. A voice says, cry out, and I shall say, what shall I cry? All people are grass. Their constancy is like the flower of the field. The grass withers, the flower fades, when the breath of the Lord blows upon it. Surely the people are grass. The grass withers, the flower fades, but the word of our God will stand forever. Get you up to a high mountain, O Zion, herald of good tidings. Lift up your voice with strength, O Jerusalem, herald of good tidings. Lift it up, do not fear. Say to the cities of Judah, here is your God. See, the Lord God comes with might, and his arm rules for him. His reward is with him, and his recompense before him. He will feed his flock like a shepherd. He will gather the lambs in his arms, and carry them in his bosom, and gently lead the mother sheep. Next, we'll hear a series of remembrances, beginning with Bette's daughter, Nancy.
There are 100 stories about children who take their mothers for granted, but I don't think that was ever the case for Amy or for me. Even when we made her life miserable as teenagers, we always knew how lucky we were and are to be Bette's daughters. We always felt deeply loved and supported, but with the knowledge that Mom very much had her own life and expected the same strength and independence from us. Hearing from all of you in the last few weeks, I can feel the impact that her unique combination of ease, strength, joy, and curiosity has had on so many of you. Thanks to my sister Amy, we recently recovered the Murray family home movies, and we got to see the Murray family in action, out on the boardwalk on the Delaware shore, at home for Christmas morning, out skating on the pond, Nancy and Bette supporting a young Jackie. It was such a gift to all of us Murray cousins to see our mothers as children with their mother and their father, who we never had the chance to know. And I'll say it's always clear in the films which sister is which, and it's not their looks or their height, but in the way that they are so much themselves, even as young girls. Bette in particular is always enjoying all of the activities immensely. Sometimes she's showing off tricks with the family dog. Sometimes she's fully committing to the family Congo line in her brand new Christmas dress. But she's always quietly making sure that everyone else is okay and enjoying themselves. Amy, my cousin Betsy, and I have always heard from our friends how comfortable they feel when they visit the Blums or the Haggertys. We have always known it's the Murray way, and in these films, the source of that Murray way is evident. One of my mom's friends from Ursuline Academy called Bette great fun and always the brightest in the class. This is not surprising to us, and it resonates with how Bernie and Bette met on a ski trip. Bernie noticed Bette because she was doing the New York Times crossword puzzle with a pen, and she noticed him coolly keeping the bus driver awake as they hit a snowstorm. From the stories of their early life together, I can see the beginnings of the life they built. Bernie teaching Bette to sail and convincing her to join him for weekends exploring the Chesapeake. According to Dad, this included an invitation to join a lunch party that may or may not have been the YS. According to Mom, it might have included just 1 or 2 times running aground. But from each outing, they learned more, discovered new favorite places, and made new friends. Over the years, they enjoyed so many adventures together, and they mostly complemented each other's strengths, but they always generously brought the rest of us along for the ride. Another consistent theme in remembering Bette, especially from Amy's friends and from mine, is how she was the coolest mom, or she was an example of a mom with a career when that was still rare. As a daughter, I can tell you, we always saw Mom's commitment to changing her community in the way she just threw herself into projects with a very clear vision of the way things should be and the way things should be done. For Amy and me, this meant a lot of rainy days in the Delaware Park Rose Garden, where Mom started her long campaign to beautify the park and clean up the lake, or seeing her take care of the Green Fund business at her kitchen desk on Highland Avenue. Later, it meant visiting Mom at the Albright Knox Art Gallery, where she quickly went from her shared desk in the education department to her big office with a view of the sculpture garden in the quiet corridor. I'm not sure I recognized at the time how rapidly Mom rose in the ranks, but now I can appreciate how great it was for Bette that she found a place where she could put her talents to use, and how great it was for the gallery to recognize early what a significant contributor she would be. And then I know moving from the gallery to work for her friend, State Assembly member Bill Hoyt, was a huge and challenging change for her. But I also know she loved the work and greatly appreciated the opportunity to affect change for the whole of Buffalo and for Erie County. And then after Bill died and Mom found herself at loose ends, She set another example for us as she started her next chapter. Even while she continued with the project she loved in Buffalo, Mom and Dad started spending more time in Miami and in Maine. In addition to her long walks around Delaware Park Lake with Judy Fisher, plotting the future of Buffalo, Mom was also now doing her power walk on the Miami Beach boardwalk with Frank Farmer, often accompanied by her sister Nancy. And in Miami, Mom created a whole new community and new extended family for us that was cemented by 25 plus years of Christmas Eve dinners hosted by Frank and Frank. Visiting Mom in Maine after just a summer or two of their Rockland residence, it was the same. She developed a great group of friends there through her walking groups, her yoga classes, and it must be said, a lot of bridge. I know in this short remembrance, I can only do the slightest justice to Mom, and at best, evoke images of her that bring us all comfort or elicit smiles that she would appreciate. I do want to say in closing that even at the end, she was still very much Bette. This spring, she would talk to me a lot about Cuomo and say, he is such a showboat, but she would also grudgingly admit that he seemed to be doing a good job. And in October, when we discussed Henry Houston's 18th birthday, one of her biggest concerns was that he was all set to vote. I find myself every day thinking about how to honor her by being kind, generous with others, and active in the world. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Mom's dear friend, Nancy Tobin.
That was Buffalo's great advocate and activist for its parks, its trees, anything green that had roots. She was one of the small group that started and ran the Buffalo Green Fund, which created a plan to replace some of Buffalo's mature trees that had been badly maimed or destroyed by the infamous October surprise snowstorm of 2006. The Buffalo Green Fund, an organization that raises private money for urban and public beautification, has significantly added beauty to the parks under Bette's tutelage. Moving from greenery to color, that also helped create Buffalo in Bloom, a competition whose mission was to make the entire city of Buffalo the world's largest flower arrangement every year for a week in early summer. In the mid-70s, that teamed up with other young mothers and volunteers to restore Delaware Park. No small challenge. The group focused on fixing up the boathouse, replanting the rose garden, the whole rose garden, and cleaning up the lake. Wow. Bette loved politics as much as she loved greenery. She became assistant to New York State Assemblyman Bill Hoyt and ran his office until he suddenly dropped dead in Albany on the assembly floor. Then she moved to the City Hall in Buffalo, where Mayor Anthony Mazziello welcomed her into a position in his office, where she successfully worked to increase appointments of people from underrepresented communities to Buffalo City Commissions. With her husband, Bernie, Bette enjoyed traveling, exploring, most often by sailboat. She and Bernie sailed around Greece and Italy, Scandinavia, the Bahamas, and British Columbia. She loved being on the water with her family and friends whether it was for day trips and sunsets around Biscayne Bay, longer trips abroad, or racing in Western New York and Erie County. She was a successful and early skipper in the Buffalo Harbor Sailing Club, the Tuesday night women's series, where she and her crew relished declaring vinegar, no men, when they checked in with the committee boat. In addition to her family and her career, Bette was an avid skier. I loved skiing with her. She was the best, and volunteered for organizations in Buffalo and Miami and Rockland, where she spent her later years. She was my great friend. When Bette and Bernie were getting ready to leave Buffalo and relocate to Miami, she looked at me and she said, "Nancy, I'm never coming back to Buffalo. So if you want to see me, you're going to have to come to Miami and visit me." Well, I did a couple of times, and I loved it. And I loved seeing how she lived there and where she lived and how she was able to look down from her high condo on the water and see the boats going in and out. The mission of the Buffalo Green Fund is to promote private contributions to be used for urban and public beautification. The organization is strong and contributions are tax deductible. In an all-volunteer organization, these people work diligently to maintain many public gardens, including the gardens in front of City Hall at Niagara Square. Many of their members are master gardeners who offer gardening classes to city residents, and they coordinate an annual recognition of public and private gardens called Buffalo in Bloom. Since 1995, Buffalo in Bloom has been dedicated to making the entire city of Buffalo the world's largest flower arrangement. That's it.
Nancy, thank you so much for remembering Mom.
Hi,
I'd love
Bernie,
to-
I see you.
And then next, I would love to introduce Bette's granddaughter, Amy's daughter, Nina Houston. Hi. Oh, okay. I'm gonna try and get through this without any tears. So let's see. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Whew. Okay. For as long as I can remember, Bette, or as I know her, Grammy, has been one of the most kind, caring, and loving women I've had in my life. I remember one time, Henry and I were in Maine, about to start sailing camp. We got into the living room and noticed 2 blankets on the couch. They were made of the softest fabric I had ever touched, and Grammy said she picked them out just for us, so we could feel comfortable on the couch when we got home from sailing. She later went on to show us the freezer, which contained a massive stash of my brother and my favorite ice cream bars. Finally, at dinner, on our first night there, she had a piece of beautifully cooked salmon, as well as a big bowl of white rice sitting on the table. For those who don't know, that is my and my brother's absolute favorite dish. Every time we visited, she greeted us with a huge smile and a warm hug. Even while in a wheelchair, I was still guaranteed that same hug and smile. Not only was she kind, but she was persistent and hardworking. After her stroke, I remember watching her in the pool, working every day to get feeling back in her legs. My mom and I talked about how we weren't worried about Grammy recovering because we knew her as one of the strongest people we'd ever met. She went from barely being able to move to walking with a walker and getting into a car by herself. As difficult as her stroke was, she never stopped pushing herself. She never gave up. That is truly one of her traits that most impressed me. After her stroke, I ended up doing a project about her for my English class. Through that process, I got to spend hours sitting on the bright white couch surrounded by the comforting light streaming through the blue tinted windows, listening to her tell stories. I also got to take pictures of her going through daily life. This was such a unique chance both to spend time with her and see life through her eyes. Now more than ever, I cherish the photos I took and the memories I have. And let's not forget that Grammy was hilarious. She always had a clever thing to say. I remember how she sneakily smiled to me after we talked about how much we could get away with while she was in her wheelchair. People giving us their tables at restaurants, etc. In those moments, it felt like we were partners in crime, and I loved it. Even in death, she is still watching over me, and I feel it in every moment. My mom and dad came to school a few weeks ago, and they gave me some of her old clothes and jewelry. They first pulled out a black Patagonia, a coat I had been desperately needing, but didn't have the time to buy. Of course, it fit perfectly. Grammy is watching out for me, always making sure I'm warm and safe. When I next opened the bag and pulled out Grammy's classic black leather backpack, I couldn't believe what an impact seeing it had on me. It brought back so many memories of her and the time we spent together. I was so honored to be gifted something that brought me so close to her, and in that moment, I felt her presence. Ever since then, I have kept her bag in my closet, getting excited every time I use it, and I wear one of her bracelets, which I have on now, every day so that she continues to be in my thoughts. I wish I could have known her when she was younger and doing incredible things at the Albright Knox and in all the other communities she was a part of, but I would not change the time that I spent with her for the world. Grammy was kind, smart, funny, passionate, and strong. I will remember the lessons she taught me throughout the rest of my life. She loved like no one I have ever met, and I'm so grateful for the gift of being loved by her. I know she is in heaven looking down at us and smiling that sneaky smile. I know she is telling us to remember her fondly, but also to experience the rest of life fully, because that's what she would do, and I know she would expect nothing less of us. Thank you.
Please observe now another slideshow, this time set by music from set to O God, King eternal, into your hands we commend your servant Elizabeth. Acknowledge, we humbly beseech you, a sheep of your own fold, a lamb of your own flock, an exile of your own redeeming. Receive her into the arms of your mercy, into the blessed rest of everlasting peace. In the name of God, I bless you, Elizabeth Blum. Amen. At this point, we would like to open the floor to any remembrances. We have several from our from the chat. Our first to chime in will be Judy Fisher. Bette's daughter Amy will be emceeing, and Bette's son-in-law Tom will help keep everything together.
Judy, are you ready? And can we find you? You know what? I'm going to tee up Claire Huntington, and then we're going to get Judy as soon as she's ready. Hi, Claire.
Hi. I could watch those photos all day. Just amazing. So I'm Claire. I'm an old family friend. I went to camp with Amy and Nancy. And although I lived in Boston, I had many trips to Buffalo and spent a lot of time with the Blum family. And I have so many memories from those days, but I'm going to stick to the guidelines and share only one. And it really echoes what Nancy was talking about. And to me, it's really one of the most profound gifts that I got from Bette. And I should preface this by saying, for me growing up, really all the adult women in my life were mothers first and foremost. And that was really their whole, at least from my child's perspective, their whole identity. And maybe they had jobs, but it was very much on the side. And what Nancy said is really what I think about so profoundly with Bette, is that she was an incredible mother. She was so loving and welcoming and warm and giving, but she was so much else too. So I just want to share one memory that I have of being a sort of early teenager, and Amy and I went to go visit Bette at the Albright Knox, and we had some business to transact. I can't remember what it was. We probably wanted money for lunch or something. And Bette welcomed us and, gave us a big hug, and we, saw her, and then we did our business, and then she said, "Okay, time for you to go." And I remember thinking, what? We're not the center of your universe 24/7? But in fact, that was so profound. It was such a deep lesson to me as a young sort of adolescent about how to be a woman in this world. And that Bette did it so joyously and generously and beautifully, and with a very, very strong sense of herself. And so I'm immensely grateful for that.
Thanks, Bear. That was beautiful. I remember that day too. I'm going to call next on Rich Toby, an old friend of my mother's from Buffalo.
Good evening. I remember the first time that I met Bette Blum. It was in 1970. I was a 20-year-old college student volunteer working for newly elected Buffalo County Council member Bill Hoyt on the first of his many great successful legislative projects. And this woman came breezing in. It was Bette Blum, preparing to serve as co-chair of the newly formed Delaware Park Steering Committee. She had helped to lead Bill's efforts to develop the political support and vision for a revived Delaware Park and Delaware Park Lake, now Hoyt Lake. And now was the time to commence implementing that vision under Bette's guidance and leadership. Her arrival was as if sunshine and a warm breeze had entered. She glowed with life. She radiated confidence. She was serious and intent, but also fun-loving. I later learned she could lead and inspire, and she loved the park the environment, and the trees of Buffalo. As my work with Bill Hoyt developed and lengthened, so too did my connection with Bette. We collaborated on the cleanup of the Park Lake, getting a $4.2 million grant from US EPA's Urban Lake Restoration Fund. The prior largest grant from that fund was only $300,000. The strategy to get the funding revolved around US Senator Daniel Patrick Moynihan, and I always thought Bette had simply charmed him. And then she successfully fought to preserve the almost pristine north shore of the lake, whose scenery and beauty went back to the time of Olmsted. She forced the engineers to relocate the lake bypass tunnels to the more arduous South Shore route over land previously cleared, filled, and flattened. I don't know all that Bette did. I doubt if even Bernie or the children do. She was everywhere with that great infectious grin. Susan and I do personally know of Bette's kindness when, through her leadership of the Green Fund, she orchestrated the planting of a tree, to our surprise, in my mother's memory within sight of Hoyt Lake. I also know with certainty that Buffalo is a better place, a far better place for her having been here. And I like to think Buffalo trees smile at her name and mourn as we do her passing. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thanks, Rich. I just heard from Judy that she says she's teared up and she's going to elect not to speak. So I'll give everyone a moment. And if anyone else wants to speak, you just put your name in the chat and we'll see if we can pull you up. We can all take this moment. And if not, then we'll call it. Hey, Carolyn. Okay, we're going to pull you up. And Dick, we see you too. So we're going to pull you up too. So Carolyn first and then Dick, thank you. I see you and I'm going to be able to hear you soon. I think if you unmute yourself, let's see if I can unmute you.
How's that?
I see you and I hear you. Hi.
So Ned just moved out of the picture, so here I am talking by myself. It's hard to add anything significant to the amazing words and stories that have been told about Bette. I met Bette and Bernie in Maine, and I'm going to try not to cry too. And she invited me to go to yoga with her. I'd never done yoga before, so I was really excited. And the 25-minute drive over to Camden and the 25-minute drive back, we became friends. And I think the drive became more important than the yoga class. I like everybody. She's so intelligent, so fun, so interesting. I was completely dazzled by her. And to the extent that when Ned and I had company from out of town and we were having dinner, a dinner party, we would invite Bette and Bernie to make sure it was interesting enough and that everybody would have a good night. So we used her as our crutch for an entertaining evening. And then when she had the stroke and we went to Mercy Hospital to see her, and she's sitting in the chair holding her arm because she had no movement whatsoever at that time. And she just smiled at us and she was so happy to see us and talk to us. Maybe she complained to other people, but she never complained to me. And I used to go to therapy with her in Maine. And I agree with you, Amy, that you were so sure that she was going to get through this stroke okay. She was extraordinary. She obviously was in all other parts of her life that I didn't know her. My big regret is I didn't know her long enough, that she's no longer with us, of course, but it would have been such a joy to have known her earlier in life. But thank you all for sharing so many wonderful memories that I wouldn't have known about and just enhance so strongly how much I love Bette and will really miss her. And thank you for having this beautiful service.
Carolyn, I can't thank you enough for the support you've provided to me over the last couple of months. I know what a great friend you were to Bette, but you really have been a great friend to me. So thank you.
And I hope we continue to be.
So we will. And now I'm going to call on Dick Christopher. Let's see if we can find him and bring him up.
Dick, if you could please unmute and start your video.
Do you have me?
Hi, Dick. We can hear you and we can see you. It's nice to see you.
Thank you. First of all, I apologize if I can't get through this. I have a condition called emotional incontinence. That's supposed to make you smile. Start off with Nina, you did a tremendous job. Tremendous job. I had a call just before the service started from Nancy Menton Lyons, who went to school with Bette from kindergarten through high school at Ursuline, and she just wanted me to give best wishes to all of the family. She has fond memories of all the time that they spent together in high school. So my memories go back more than 60 years. As you know, I haven't been involved at all. I did call Bette every once in a while on her birthday. But my memories are from Sally's and Ursuline proms, all the dances that we went to, prom at Rosemont, ice skating. She was so much fun. And before it was a phrase, I guess, she was really comfortable in her own skin. She was wonderful to be with. She had a lovely smile and was really just a happy, happy person. It was a privilege to know her back then and have her part of my growing up. Thank you.
Thanks, Dick. It's really lovely to see you, and we really appreciate it. And there's Marianne. Hi, Marianne. It's so good to have you too. We can hear you and we can see you.
Oh, okay. Well, I hope I'm not going to cry, but I actually did cry when your daughter was speaking because she was so beautiful and so wonderful. I have to say that my memories of that forever from high school on, the most energetic smile you would ever see. What a classic person she was. I mean, I have to say, now you just met my brother Dick, but he is one of 5 brothers, and I was definitely outnumbered. But I immediately adopted Nancy and Bette as honorary sisters to kind of make up the balance in the family. I did have another sister, but she was pretty little when I was in high school. So anyway, but we had so much fun. So many things, ice skating on the lake and on the creek, but also in later life, I would come down to Miami with Nancy and we would get up at the break of dawn, which is not my time, okay? And we would do a forced march on the beach, and I called it Bette's Boot Camp because it really was Bette's Boot Camp, and she was amazing. She was just an amazing person. She had so much love and energy, and it was so positive. And I've always thought of her as a dear, dear friend and a role model. And now I'm going to cry, so I'm going to stop.
It was beautiful. Thank you. I think you did perfectly because it's 6 o'clock and I think we're going to call this event a close. We will leave the chat open for anybody who wants to write anything else. We can keep the chat. We can actually keep this recording. We can share this recording. We can see all of you in the future. So it's incredibly meaningful to us that you were here and you got through all the crazy Zoom kinks and helped bring all these people from all over the country. And my cousin Nora in Zurich stayed up till very late to be a part of this. So we're grateful to see you. We're grateful to share these memories with you, and we're grateful to have shared Bette's life with you. And we love you. And good night.